September the 5th, 2022. Guys, I hope everyone's having a safe and enjoyable extended weekend with this Labor Day holiday. What you're looking at is wide images of the Atlantic. These are current images as of 12:30 p.m. Central. You can see right in the screen we have Tropical Storm Earl. Now, I think in the next update it will be a Category 1 hurricane. You can see in this update that they have at 65-mile-an-hour sustained winds is an hour or so old. But you can tell if you look very closely at the rotation here, this thing is winding into what's going to become a Cat 3 hurricane if the projections are correct. It's been sitting here for a few days. This is one of the heavier manipulated storms, maybe the top 3 that's come across the Atlantic involving the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico itself. Now, we know that there's manipulation because China now is talking about they're creating rain, and even that subject used to be taboo. Many of the U.S. weather stations have signed agreements, according to some very, very good information that I have, that says they cannot talk about geoengineering, weather or climate control, or any of those things under threat of losing their license at the stations. Think about that. So who is in control of all of the weather stations? Of course, Federal Communications Commission. And all of the world governments now are not run by human beings anymore, not in the natural state. I know that sounds kind of far-fetched, but hear me out. We are dealing with extreme demonic possession in the world leaderships and in the control sections of the rest of the planet, whether it's government, weather, fuel, whatever it is, carbon taxes, whatever it is no longer being controlled by normal human beings. And this started a long time ago, but now it's gotten to such a fevered pitch that the demons, you can hear them. You can even, every time the news comes on, you can see them. These people are possessed. Do you think Joe Biden made that speech up the other night with the red backgrounds? Do you realize that more than likely there was some type of demonic, there was a form of worship before that to bring the demons into Joe? Do you know what I'm talking about? Some type of demonic possession management. In other words, that anger against humanity is not a normal thing. We have been taken over by demons. We were told this war will not be flesh against flesh, but this will be against spiritual powers, and in this case, demonic spiritual powers. But this storm that we're looking at, Earl, again, is about to head north and then curve back into the North Atlantic, headed over towards the central North Atlantic, possibly ending up in the UK. Above it, you can just see Danielle, which is a Cat 2 hurricane there, and we got another system that we're watching here. But guys, it's starting to become obvious after all these years of watching these storms traverse across this ocean that these are being manipulated. Harvey was, and guys, do you remember, was it last year or year before, when a hurricane got parked right over the Bahamas? And it was sitting there for several days at 180 to 200 mile-an-hour winds, and waves were completely washing through every house on the island. Do y'all remember that? It was just parked there. That's not normal in nature. This is not normal what we're seeing here. It goes much deeper than that, and I want to just talk about how deep it is. We've been seeing this climate engineering for a long time. And really it started with the advent of the atomic bomb. What else happened right before we started seeing atomic weapons being so-called tested across the planet? Thousands and thousands were blown up, guys. It was like carpet bombing the earth. If you've never seen those maps, you need to look it up. There's some that are actually moving maps that show you the date and times and the multiple explosions out of thousands. The earth was carpet bombed with radiation. Where did that technology come from? We know it's fallen angel technology that was given to certain people that were interested in demonic possession and demonic devices, starting with the ones that invented the nuclear bomb, guys. And the nuclear weapons have been around for thousands of years. I think the Earth was hit by one, or certain areas of the Earth, back in the days before the flood. There's radiation signs through many places in the deserts, and I think the pyramids were the only thing that survived the Great Flood and possibly nuclear events. If you read the history, the Sumerians and the Anunnaki, they built the pyramids. The Egyptians had nothing to do with it. And there was wars, and people, and during those wars, survived by being in the pyramids. Now, why did I go there? Because this has been going on a long time, and now they have completely saturated the earth with poison. I think that's the main key of this video. In other words, we're seeing crop manipulation, crops destroyed. Why are we seeing 1,000-year floods, 1,000-year heat records, 1,000-year cold records, 1,000-year floods? Why is all that happening now? Because the demons are in complete control. Sure, they appear to be humans because of possession. If you don't think possession is a real thing, then you don't believe in Jesus Christ, because he cast demons out, remember, and told us we could. So don't think this is some kind of sci-fi bullcrap. But let me tell you what else is out. And some of you are very familiar, as I am, for the last 15, 20 years, of a fella out in the Shasta area, Lake Shasta area in California, that's been doing this watch for a long time. His website is geoengineeringwatch.org. Not a very popular person, not a very popular subject. But with the new reports coming out, and they've done the test, guys, they've gone as far as launching high-altitude planes to measure ozone layer, testing the oceans, testing the rivers and the lakes. And in that part of Lake Shasta, they've just done some soil samples and things like that, and the trees were all starting to die off. And then they started noticing the poison at first was like an inch or two deep, and it's coming from chemtrails. Aluminum, barium, things like that, coming from chemtrails, and now it's over a foot deep in that area. And this fellow that we all know said he would, in one day, plant 250 trees. He'd have 80% of them make it. You know, you can have some die off. But now it's 0%. The soil tests now go under a foot that deep, and it's going to take thousands of years for that to come back. Now, again, we're dealing with what many of us are aware of, that there's a population control agenda going on the planet. That's why you're seeing the starvation. That's why you're seeing the floods. Why you're seeing the diesel being shut off, and the fuel and the fertilizers, right? And so we're pretty much up to speed on that, we think. And a lot of people are saying, well, and they plan this. I'm going to be way out in the wilderness, which is not a bad idea, way out in the wilderness. And when this hits the fan, then, and a lot of the people die off, then these demons will let up on this manipulation that we're looking at, and things will be back to normal in a few years. In other words, they're going to turn off HAARP. They're going to turn off all the other manipulators of our weather that's destroying machines. And things will come back to normal. But guys, what if they've gone too far? And that's exactly what has happened. They did ocean measurements, this group, and they're finding via air, drop from the air, microplastics, polymers, and other things like this that were in the mix, in this soup, that are in the oceans, and they're in the top layer, and they are blocking light off the plankton now. And that 80 to 90% of the world's plankton reserves in the oceans are dying. Guys, without plankton, there is no oxygen. There is no life as we know it. It's a form of terraforming. It goes way beyond just population control over the next few years. There's something demonic happening There's another race of beings that want this planet for themselves. You don't geo-engineer in the oceans to die off and not produce oxygen if you are a species that breathes oxygen. You remember some of the old movies? One was down in South America where they were terraforming, removing oxygen, putting all kind of poison into the air. It was down at that big telescope. Remember that one? I don't remember the name of it, but it was a hint of what was going on at that time. So the terraforming that is happening now will take thousands of years, if left alone, to return to its normal state. It's not going to happen when they turn these machines off and quit chemtrailing. That's not what's happening. Why did when Truman, if you look at the story of some of the presidents around Truman, Eisenhower, these guys met with entities, ships that were not Air Force made, landed at key airports. Presidents were flown to the airports to meet these beings. After this, we started seeing the carpet bombing with nuclear bombs of our planet. Terraforming. Who else would do it? What human would do it? None, unless they were completely possessed. And many of our presidents have and are completely possessed and were when their body was alive. The demons are still somewhere, maybe in the next president. We don't know. But they've terraformed now to the point to where it's not going back. We say things are not going back to normal. We're not talking about politically. Now, why do you think God said, I'm going to have to burn this planet with fervent heat, burn the elements, the bad elements? Because the demons have done so much damage that if he doesn't bring about a new world, there will be no life left. It is moved to the point, guys. It has moved to the point of no return in our lifetimes, and in probably hundreds of generations if it was left alone. But we know our Father is coming soon. We also got to watch on the fake return, right? The Antichrist proclaiming to be Christ. And he's leading these demons. Look at what's going on, guys. There's so much information coming out in the last few weeks that it would scare the normal person if they heard everything. How humans are being treated and how the last dozen presidents have been involved in it. We're talking about sacrifices by the thousands right here in the U.S. Things are getting very deep. This will not be a popular video. But guys, these storms are not natural. And I'm just basically using this as a backdrop. This thing's about to take off northeast, get to a Cat 3 on the other side. It doesn't look like Bermuda will take a direct hit. It's going to be east of there, but it's going to be gaining speed very quickly. And it's not something that is critical at this moment. As long as the hurricanes are there, they're still doing their main job, and that is to get that hot ocean air and spiral it into the upper atmosphere and cool it to cool the planet. And that would probably be why they would want to stop as many of these as they can, because now the information is they can start one, they can when they want to, they can stop it when they want to, and they can steer it where they want to. They want it to set over an area and have massive flooding for days and days. They can. If they want to steer it away from an area that needs the moisture, they can. But it's complete terraforming, and it is almost completed. That's why you're seeing the crops die, guys. It's not just drought. It's chemicals in the atmosphere. And everyone's garden that I've talked to, and many of the of you guys that come in comments when we talk about the heat and crop damage and things like that, all of you have seen it. I've never seen it as bad as I have this year in my garden. I'm talking about everything started out good, wiped out, except the peppers. They are doing very good. But everything else, just almost in a few days, just died off. They're spraying heavily. They're terraforming the planet. Now, what is the end result of all this? And let me say this, one other thing. They're building, and you've heard about it up in the Midwest, these carbon capturing factories. They're pulling in carbon, or they're CO2, pulling it in and supposedly storing it underground when the planet needs that. That's the only way the planet survives. And that's what they want to do. Now, why are some of these AOC-style politicians screaming, cut all the trees? Guys, without the trees, it's stupid. It is evil. It is terraforming. Now, one of the Canada, already built one of these big old CO2 capturing plants. And you know what happened? The energy that was involved in all the big fans and the filtrations and all this, and used more energy, had a larger carbon footprint from the energy they were using than what they captured. But it was a money deal. Greed is how the demons work. And it's amazing to start seeing some of the politicians screaming to cut down the trees. They don't, something that is wanting to take over this planet does not like normal oxygen. They don't like CO2. It is a full demonic takeover of the planet. It looks like to me, as far as the higher, all of the politicians, all of the scientists, or so-called scientists, all of the weapons developers, all of this, and geoengineering weather is a weapon. They want to destroy the earth as we know it. God, it will come. There will be a new earth. There will be a new heaven because of what these demons have done to the most beautiful planet possibly in the entire universe. They cannot stand God's creation. Guys, when we say it's not going back to normal, it's not just that they may stop trying to kill everybody once the population is reduced. It's not going to stop there. Some entity, evil demonic entity, does not want normal human beings on this planet. The human beings that are going along with this have been deceived and possessed, and I think we saw it in D.C. the other night. A ritual to let that demon into whatever creature that was we saw on TV, and let that voice speak forward. But they had a ritual. I know they had to have that to bring that much alertness into that dead hunk of meat, and that much evil and hatred. There's only one way out of this, and he's not quite here yet. But he listens to our prayers, guys, and it's time to pray up. Things are going to get really rough here very quickly. You saw the last couple of videos about September and October, right? And the great resets, possibly economic collapse during those times. Bank of Rome has called all of its holdings back to Rome that were worldwide. Why? Something's about to go down. I think what's happening, the devil is raging back and forth because he knows he has but a short time and trying to bring ultimate destruction upon us and upon this beautiful blue marble that God created. Now, we will have a new world, and it more than likely will be more beautiful than this. But if man would have just left Earth alone, what a beautiful place. And even if man's time goes, there's millions of beautiful creatures that God created. Look at your animals that may survive it. But not if they terraform it and they keep destroying everything. But every devil has his day, and that's coming. We're watching it, guys. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.